key elements of a Grand Prix weekend here on the outskirts of Barcelona. Good overtaking hotspot as you start that final sector into turn 10. Turn 14, of course, there was drama there, wasn't there, back in 2009 between a certain Valentino Rossi and Jorge Lorenzo. Good afternoon and a very warm welcome back to the Circuit de Barcelona-Catalunya. I just feel like a very warm welcome back. Just made my way over from the other side of the paddock into our commentary box, which is perched right at the top of the main grandstand on the left-hand side of your picture, and it's getting pretty toasty, it's getting pretty warm here in this beautiful part of Europe. We're all set for Chapter 15 in this year's MotoGP World Championship. That brings us to the Monster Energy Grand Prix of Catalonia, where there's already been some very, very big news regarding the future of MotoGP here today in Catalonia, and certainly the future of one prominent team. And more on that later, although I'm sure you've been all across the big news on social media. That Formula One personality, great character, moving over from Formula One. Günther Steiner is now, in the future, will be the team owner of Red Bull KTM Tech 3. There's a press conference which took place here around noon here in Barcelona. So major news. It has been coming, it's been in the offing for quite some time, but yeah, confirmation finally that Tech 3 in 2026 and beyond will be in the ownership of Günther Steiner. Great addition to the paddock. That's all coming up in the future in MotoGP. In the here and now, well, it's Marc Marquez who stands on the cusp of a 7th MotoGP World title. If he leaves this home Grand Prix weekend in Barcelona, scoring 10 points more than brother Alex on the Gresini Racing Ducati, well, what does that mean? It means, as we head to Italy's Adriatic coast next weekend, always a favourite stop off Andy Mazzano World Circuit, Marco Simoncelli, Marc Marquez could indeed lift that elusive 7th Premier Class crown. Yeah, give us a wave, our cameraman perched on the crane. What a shot that is, what a vantage point they have, our camera operator, catching all the images of MotoGP bikes screaming past them at nearly 360 kilometres an hour. A bit of cloud off into the distance, nothing to concern us though here at the Circuit de Barcelona-Catalunya as we get set for what is always a very important Friday afternoon. Of course, at the end of play, there will be 10 riders safely through to tomorrow's Q2 action. This morning, free practice was led by Pedro Acosta, looking a lot like the Pedro Acosta of 2024, isn't it? 138.979, which he actually set twice this morning. Put the KTM star top of the pile. Joan Zarco was second fastest on Honda LCR machine, celebrating his new 2-year contract with Lucio Cecchino's squad. Marc Marquez, standing on the brink of that world title, was third fastest. Headed Maverick Vinales, impressing on his return to action after a long absence through injury. Alex Marquez, all eyes on the 73 to see if he can delay Marc's celebrations in 2025. He was 5th quickest, and of Luca Marini, Brad Binder, Marco Bezzecchi, Aleix Spargo, Honda Wildcard and Enea Bastianini. They were your top 10 this morning. Our only faller in this morning's FP1 was Jack Miller. He was 11th fastest. Big news as well, Pecco Bagnaia won both Grand Prix here in 2024. Well, he was way down the order, 23rd fast. We'll get more reaction on what happened to Bagnaia shortly down in pit lane. But it's Matt Burt and Lewis Sotheby talking you through all of this hour-long session this afternoon under beautiful sunny skies here in Barcelona. Jack Appleyard, of course, as always, down in pit lane. Marc Marquez, 3rd fastest and looking in great form. Just a couple of tenths he was behind Pedro Acosta. Did not go out on soft or fresh rubber this morning, did Marc Marquez. You can hear the reception he's getting from his adoring public here. But Pedro Acosta, Lewis, he's certainly stepped up his game in the last 3 or 4 Grand Prix, and he was flying once again this morning.
Feels like Pedro Acosta and Marco Bezzecchi have been the 2 riders putting their hands up in the last few Grand Prix to say, I want to be the one to take the fight to Marc Marquez and end this golden winning run, which dates all the way back to the end of May. That's the situation awaiting Marc Marquez this weekend, and what he needs to do to go to Misano next weekend with an opportunity to win the World Championship. But winning this Grand Prix this weekend is his main focus, and certainly the focus of that young fan who's come here for one reason, to see Marc Marquez win. He has done nothing but in the last 3 or 4 months. And even with Pedro Acosta's immense pace this morning, Marc Marquez's pace certainly will have caught everybody's attention.
Love it, love it. That has made that young man's year, hasn't it? Not just his day or his weekend here in Barcelona, that has made his year. The big beaming smile, the 93 fans, well, they are out in force. Marc yesterday was signing dozens of autographs outside of the factory Ducati garage. So far, so good then for 93. Not so far this weekend as far as 63 is concerned. He found himself stuck down in P23. Jack, what was going on?
Yeah, problem on the number 1 bike didn't mean that he got off to the perfect start. He swapped over to the number 2 and spent the entirety of the session on the same set of tyres. But when you look at the analysis, at the end of the session when there were 17 laps on the rear, he was lapping at 3/4 of a second, nearly a second slower than what Marc Marquez and Alex Marquez were doing, who were definitely the pace setters out there. Now, afterwards, when speaking to Sky Italy, Davide Tardozzi said, "We expect Pecco to do his part in trying to solve these problems. He has to help us help him. We need him to focus more on overcoming the difficulties, to think more about the rider he is and how good he is." Now, this comes after the Austrian Grand Prix, where Pecco Bagnaia at the conclusion said that his patience was starting to run out with Ducati. He then backtracked on those statements, but for Tardozzi to come out and be as strong as that and saying that, look, Pecco needs to play his part in us trying to turn this around as well. This once perfect marriage, the Italian on the Italian bike, winning the World Championship together for the first time. It is obvious that on both sides there's real tension there, and there's fractures just starting to show from both sides. We can see Tardozzi on screen now. I'm hoping to get a word with him just to clarify some of those comments exactly, but he was speaking in his native language to Sky Italy, so he knew exactly what he was saying, and they're pretty strong words from the team boss.
Yeah, thanks very much, Jack. We'll be keeping a close eye on what's happening down that factory Ducati garage. Of course, this is all a throwback to Davide Tardozzi, Ducati Novo team boss. Can smile about that. Of course, that was when there was, shall we say, a little bit of a hostile reception for Marc Marquez when he made his Italian Grand Prix debut in red at Mugello a few weeks ago. That fan's got a great sense of humour. That's a brilliant gesture.
Here.
No, they won't. This is home turf. This is Marc's backyard. Yeah, he sees the funny side of it. Doesn't need Davide Tardozzi. So, yeah, opposite ends once again of the timing screens, weren't they, this morning? Marc third fastest. You have to go all the way down to 23rd to find the ride on your screens. Pecco Bagnaia, who is under the cosh, he is under the pump. He was 1.5 seconds slower than Acosta this morning. If you do the direct comparison with Marc Marquez, Marquez did a 139.198. Bagnaia nowhere near the 39s. His best work this morning, a 140.535. The only rider behind Pecco at the end of play this morning was Sonkiat Chantra, who completed his first 17 laps since the Dutch Grand Prix in Assen at the end of June. Chantra returning from his injury nightmare, the only rider behind Bagnaia. You can understand perhaps why Ducati are thinking, well, it's not just all about the bike, is it?
Yeah, because they can point to how many Grand Prix and sprints that Ducati GP25 has won this season. Now, Pecco Bagnaia, of course, has made the point, and I'm sure he will feel it's a very valid one, that the rider's been making the difference in Marc Marquez's case. But the point remains, Ducati GP25 has continued to dominate this season, even if it might not necessarily be as universally popular as the GP24 was. I think ultimately for Pecco Bagnaia, you can understand how the issues he's had throughout this season have got on top of him. He's been taking psychological punch after punch this season, and not just from Marc Marquez, from his own motorcycle in his view. And I guess whatever work is going on inside the box, whatever changes they're making to that bike, ultimately the end will justify the means. And I think we can truly judge what kind of day Pecco Bagnaia's had in around 59 minutes time. If he's up inside the top 3 and he's comfortably into Q2, then we'll say that all is rosy in the Pecco Bagnaia garden once again. If he's repeating what we saw in Hungary last time out and he's in Q1 for the second Grand Prix in a row, then more questions will be asked.
Yeah, he's gone 3 Grand Prix in a row now without a podium for the first time in over 3 years. That's since the early part of 2022. 9th place over the line in the checker flag. in Barcelona the Grand Prix, his lowest finish in the dry since he was 9th in Valencia, and a very nervy conclusion for 2022 when all he had to do was pretty much see the checkered flag to wrap up the World Championship. So yeah, these are very, very tough times, aren't they, right now for Pecco Bagnaia. I think this morning, whether he was on his number 1 bike or his number 2 bike, we were expecting him to come flying out of the traps, having seen so much positivity from Bagnaia after those radical setup changes last time out in Hungary. And maybe we will still see him fighting at the front. We certainly hope so. Let's go down, though, to Jack Appleyard, who's going to pick it up with Ducati boss Davide Tardozzi.
Yeah, I've got Davide. I'll just wait, actually, for the first flurry of bikes to go past, because it's quite a loud one down here in pit lane. It seems we've got a gap. Davide, I think everybody was surprised this morning to see that Pecco was 23rd on the standings after so much positivity at the end of the Hungarian Grand Prix, feeling that a radical change had managed to finally find some kind of answers. That wasn't where we expected to see him, so can you just take us inside the box and explain what happened this morning?
Yeah, this morning he was not comfortable with the setup that it was up in Hungary. It seems that he doesn't work properly. He makes some adjustment, and we'll see in the next couple of laps if it works or not.
I saw some comments that you made to Sky after the session saying that Pecco needs to help us, help him, and he needs to potentially do a little bit more to try and find the answers. What did you mean exactly by that?
I mean that there are moments where the riders have to ride over the problems, and that's the moment. I think that Pecco is able to do it. It shows this several times in the past years, so I guess that in this moment he needs to help us to help him.
The problems he's having right now, are they as much mental as they are technical?
No, I don't know. I think that if Pecco is not performing, for sure there is something on the technical side that doesn't work. That's obvious, because we trust him as a top rider, and that means that there is something that we haven't found yet to let him perform in the proper way. But we'll see. We are still working, we are still trusting him, and we have to find the solution.
Davide, thank you. Have a good session.
Yeah, thanks, Jack. Thanks, as always, to Ducati boss Davide Tardozzi. It takes 2 to tango, doesn't it? And they clearly are hoping for more then from the double world champion. Well, here is the news that we told you about at the start of the programme. It has been coming. Great news, though, nevertheless, when it has been finally officially confirmed. Gunther Steiner, of course, such a star of the Formula 1 World Championship for many, many years, most recently with the Haas Formula 1 team, a star of the Drive to Survive series on Netflix. I'm delighted to say he's bringing some of that very well-known and very likeable charisma over to MotoGP from 2026 onwards. Final confirmation of what we've been expecting for some time, Lewis. Gunther Steiner and consortium associated with him have completed their acquisition of Red Bull KTM Tech 3 for 2026. Very exciting times for everybody, both on and off the track.
Yeah, you're certainly talking to a keen Drive to Survive viewer here who knows all about Gunther Steiner, but he is so much more than just a quote magnet and a challenge for those with their finger hovering above the bleep button when he's talking on TV. He's a very clever and canny operator, very experienced, of course, in the world of four wheels, as you mentioned. He's, of course, had that time as the man in charge at Haas. He's also had spells with the Minardi Formula 1 team and also with Red Bull Racing, albeit Red Bull Racing when it was in its infancy, not the juggernaut that it has become now in Formula 1, but so much experience, and he's now looking to bring that into MotoGP. I think the character of Gunther Steiner is going to be a huge asset to MotoGP because he is such a charismatic guy. You just have to sit down and listen whenever he has a microphone in his hand, but also he's got so much knowledge from Formula 1, although he does say that he's not looking to try and copy-paste what works in Formula 1 necessarily over to here. He says the first year that he's going to be over here in this paddock as the CEO of the Tech 3 squad is to learn. He's not looking to completely reinvent the wheel. He's not looking to change the name, change the identity of Tech 3, which of course is very much ingrained in MotoGP history. But of course, the longer he's there, the more he's going to want to put his own fingerprint on the team. And he's certainly going to bring plenty of colour to MotoGP, and Tech 3 hope plenty of success too.
Yeah, Hervé Poncharal fans, don't worry at home, he will be sticking around for the majority of 2026. I'm told, probably likely, that he will still travel to the vast majority of Grand Prix, if not all of them. So we'll still be hearing plenty from Hervé Poncharal. He's definitely taking a back seat, though, as you would understand. He's going to be more of a consultant, was how he described himself in the upcoming 2026 season, as he passes on the baton, as he describes it, hands over the reins to Gunther Steiner and co. Let's move back to matters on track then now here in Barcelona. And it might not be a bad time very, very quickly to pick up Pedro Acosta. Rapid and fastest in FP1 this morning, already in the early part of this afternoon session. Acosta finding his groove, finding his rhythm. Let's have a quick look at the timing screens. It's a mix at the moment in terms of the riders that are looking at the soft rear tyre, the medium rear tyre. You can see on the graphic Acosta at the moment, he's out on the soft, as opposed to Alex Marquez being out on the medium combination. Straight away we're getting some pretty impressive lap times, aren't we? Alex has just fired in a 1:39.301, which is actually his best time of the day so far. And Acosta on just his fourth lap of the session. Yeah, a bit of a nod of approval from crew chief Paul Trevathan. This has been a stellar start to this round 15 from Acosta. Led the way this morning and has wasted precious little time in sort of stamping his authority over practice as well.
Yeah, 39.095 is a tenth of a second away from what he did earlier on today. Pekka Bagnaia has already put in a 1:40.0, which is some half-second quicker than he went this morning, so he's already making steps in the right direction, but he needs to take several of them to get himself back up towards the front. So Acosta quickest at the moment. It's clear that the KTM is continuing to improve with every weekend that goes by, but so is this bike, the factory Honda, which Luca Marini took to a pair of top 5 finishes last time out in Hungary. His best weekend as a Honda rider, and with the evidence of Johann Zarco this morning and the very small snapshot that we've seen so far this afternoon, is that the Honda's competitive here too.
Yeah, good times at the moment for Luca Marini. That excellent weekend he had in Balaton, 4th in the sprint, backed up with an excellent 5th in the Grand Prix. And from his side, it's never really been in any doubt. He has confirmed he's staying with HRC for 2026. He's been sort of exuding confidence that his seat's been safe for quite some time. In fact, I think he told the media yesterday, I've been very chill, I've been very relaxed. And when is Luca Marini never ultra chill or super relaxed? He said we've been having talks really since we started and kicked off 2025 in Buriram. Those talks have progressed pretty well throughout the season. Yeah, and they've finally got the contract signed, so we'll be seeing Luca Marini on factory Honda in 2026 as Alex Marquez finds further improvement. He's taken top spot back with a 1:39.074. 2 Hondas now in the top 4. Johann Zarco, who excelled this morning for Cashel Honda LCR, second fastest the Frenchman was in FP1, already up into P4.
Yeah, I think any doubts of Luca Marini keeping his place at the Honda HRC Cashel squad were pretty much quashed as soon as Jorge Martin had no way out of Aprilia earlier in the year, because he was the name being linked potentially with a switch across to Honda for 2026. Once that was off the table, it made no sense really to get rid of Luca Marini and to drop him from that team. I guess the concern that Marini had around that point, of course, that while those rumours were circulating around Jorge Martin, Luca Marini was injured after that big crash at Suzuka, but he's very quickly got over that and started to show exactly what he's capable of on that RC213V.
Yeah, let's pop down to Jack and get some updates on what Honda are currently up to here in Barcelona.
Yeah, a lot has been made, of course, over the past couple of weekends of that brand new chassis, coupled with the aerodynamics update and the electronics as well. But I think both Luca and Johan, when speaking to us yesterday, wanted to stress that they felt Austria and Hungary in particular were quite unique circuits, so they were very interested to see how that new chassis would be able to work here at a circuit where Aleix in particular has done many laps. Aleix actually tried that new chassis right here for the very first time during the summer break, and he believed yesterday that it could be worth between 3 to 4 tenths a lap. As soon as he tried it, he said to the new boss Romano Albiciano, the Honda tech director, that you need to take this chassis and give it to the factory guys as soon as possible. Romano tried to calm him down, and Aleix said, well, if you don't, I'm going to text them and tell them that they're going to pick up the phone and call you to make sure you bring it. that good. Aleix was very, very enthusiastic about how much of a step this chassis was. Now, they did back-to-back it this morning just to reconfirm it, but the positive side once again is that both Luca and Joan Mir have started this session on that brand new chassis. We spoke to Lucio Cecchinello this morning. You could kind of understand why, despite that new contract, Johann Zarco has been a little bit frustrated of late, because he is just behind the 8 ball ever so slightly with the factory guys getting this update ahead of him.
Yeah, thanks as always, Jack. Let's pull no punches. Honda are without any doubt a sleeping giant, aren't they? It looks like they're finally awakening from their recent slumber. They are the most successful manufacturer in MotoGP, and it was only a matter of time, really, aided and helped by the concession system to sort of level the playing field technically wise in MotoGP. Well, they were aggressive, certainly in the engineer market, weren't they? Taking Romano Alberciano from Aprilia at the end of last year, probably into next year is when we'll really start to see the Alberciano effect. A lot of the new parts would have already been in plans for the early part of 2025. But yeah, Honda are in recovery mode. They're doing a very, very good job at it, aren't they? Marini's third, Zarco fourth, Aleix Espargaro 13th. You know that Aleix will be there or thereabouts at a circuit that he loves, of course. But yeah, you've got to say, at the start of the season, Lewis, it looked like it was actually Yamaha that had made a bit of a jump on their Japanese counterparts at Honda. But over the last sort of 5 or 6 Grand Prix, Yamaha have effectively kind of stalled, whereas Honda have made clear and tangible progress. Yeah,
it seems pretty clear, to me at least at the moment, that the sole performance part, as we take a look at the future CEO of Tech3, Gunther Steiner, we'll be seeing plenty of him in the future here in MotoGP. But in terms of Yamaha, their biggest performance part at the moment is called Fabio Quartararo. I think without him, they would be struggling badly to get any riders into Q2 or anyone anywhere near the podium at the moment. And Honda, you can see it, it's a collective across the 3 Honda riders who've been riding regularly, of course. Some Pietranch has been injured for quite some time, but we've seen both Luca Marini and Joan Mir making quite frequent visits to qualifying 2. Marini, of course, into Q2 in Austin and at Silverstone prior injury, and he was, of course, returning to the top 10 in Hungary last time out before taking those 2 top 5 finishes. That it's a rider-friendly motorcycle now, which you can't really say it's been in previous years. They said it right from pre-season testing in Sepang when we asked Johann Zarco, Joan Mir and Luca Marini about this new Honda. They said it's a much easier bike to ride, and with more performance parts coming on stream now, not only is it a easier bike to ride, but it's a faster one too.
Yeah, I think also HRC recognised that they maybe had to sort of step it up a little bit behind the scenes, not just in terms of their engineering department, but the hiring of both Aleix Espargaro and Taka Nakagami as test riders fresh out of MotoGP, who you know are going to still be able to be competitive in this field. That's only going to accelerate the development of your project as well. Here is Zarco then on screen, 4th fastest with a 139.336. 139 zeros have been produced so far by Alex and Costa. It's Frankie Morbidelli does a little bit of off-roading. Looks like it's in the braking zone again into the first corner. Okay then, so Hervé Poncharal has been making a lot of headlines over the last few weeks. Of course, this strong link about the acquisition of Gunther Steiner moving in as the boss of Tech3 KTM in 2026. Well, we know that deal is now completely done and dusted. Thankfully, we know that Hervé's going to be sticking around for 2026, and I'm sure maybe a little bit after as well. We certainly hope so here in the commentary box. I'm sure fans all around the world will echo those sentiments. But yeah, the job has been completed. Let's get the thoughts then of Hervé Poncharal with Jack.
Yeah, great to be joined by Hervé, and as you say, I'm sure our commentary box door will always be open to hear from Hervé throughout the years to come. What are the emotions like now that the news is out, Hervé?
Oh, you know, the emotion hasn't come down yet, you know. I'm still feeling a bit strange, you know, because but I know that I will still be not out, but not running the team anymore. So honestly, it's a bit of a strange feeling, you know. You're so much used to after something like 40 years here, almost deciding everything for your own company. To know that you're going to pass the baton is a weird feeling. This is quite a few days. I know it will happen here. But no, I still didn't come back on earth at the moment.
What can we expect then from the new man in charge? A lot of us will know Gunther Steiner, the Netflix star, the Formula One boss, but you've got to know him over the past couple of months on a more close, more personal basis. So what kind of a character are we welcoming into the paddock?
Yeah, honestly, I was a bit skeptical. I was a bit, I wouldn't say scared, but almost scared, you know. And the first time I really met him physically was in Austin, Texas this year. It was in Carlos Ezpeleta's office, and I was a little bit, I don't want to say shy, but I didn't want to open myself too much, you know. I was just willing to hear from him, and he was not like he looks like, if I can say so. He was quite nice, quite polite, willing to understand, willing to know what was the possibilities. And you know, at first when he came to see me, telling me that he would like to eventually buy a MotoGP team, and Tech3 in particular, I was kind of shocked, you know, and I told him I'm not for sale. But then he was clever enough, and I've been thinking, and we kept, you know, the line open, and we talked quite a lot, mainly on the phone, because, you know, he's living in USA. But even though it was only on the phone, we got to know each other a lot more, and you have some antenna, and I have some of them, you know, to let you know how the people are, and I quite enjoy, you know, talking, sharing with him. We met again in Silverstone, and basically, you know, almost everything was clear, was agreed. I think we share a lot of common points, you know, in the way we see the future, in the way we see how to run a company. He was, I don't know if it's clever or kind enough, I don't know which word to use, but from the very beginning he told me, we want to keep the name Tech3, this is clear, this is part of the MotoGP history. We want to keep your base, we want to keep 100% of your staff, of course including the riders, and we would like you to help us at least through 26 to do the transition. So this is also something that I think is quite clever, because so far they don't have anything. So to start with something which is already working is clever, and I really look forward to the second half of 25, because Richard Coleman, who is going to be the team principal, is going to be with us most of the Grand Prix. We're going to chat together. We're going to, you know, throw some ideas. We're going to see how to do. I will have to also listening to them to see what are their intentions. But clearly, you know, you're always stronger together than alone. So I have to tell you that it first started in my mind to eventually understand that I was not powerful enough on my own during the winter, because when KTM met the financial crisis, at some stage it was not sure that the company would survive, and I said, wow, I'm very vulnerable, you know, I have to think about the future of my company. And then from that moment, you know, Carmelo and Carlos Ezpeleta were clever or kind enough to talk to me and to tell me, you need an investor, you need somebody on your side in order to face the tough times. And you know, throughout life and throughout the life of a company, you always face tough times.
Gunther and Richard in the press conference referred to it being a learning year in 2026, but in 2026 the contract ends with KTM, it ends with Maverick, it ends with Enea. There's a lot of work to be done in 2026, so in your consultancy role, how involved are you going to be in those big decisions with them?
You know, clearly they will be the boss, so they will decide whatever they want. I will be at their disposal if ever they need some information, my point of view, some address to meet people, some contact, also to ask me my feeling, because I've been working with almost all the 5 manufacturers on the grid at the moment. Also, we will have to think about riders. So I think the 3 of us, we will talk, chat, exchange ideas, but at the end of the day, the final call will be Gunther's call.
Well,
but I'm looking for that, you know. I like to share, I like to exchange, you know, and I'm very excited to work with them and see how together we can build a more powerful Tech3.
Well, Hervé, it's been a pleasure chatting to you for these years, and I'm sure we're going to have many more in the years to come.
And last thing, I don't want to retire until Matt Burt retires. We need to retire together.
Well, we don't want Bertie going anywhere. Just
Well, I'm staying then.
the pair of you are going to have to stick around a bit longer, and there's going to be lots of people at home happy to hear that. Hervé, congratulations on the news, and hopefully it's a successful end to 2025 for you.
Thank you.
You're not going anywhere.
Well, yeah, hopefully not. I mean, the good news for Hervé is we know that he's going to be sticking around in 2026. I sincerely hope I will be as well. Yeah, I'll wait and see on that one. But yeah, fantastic. It will be, I'm sure, very, very strange, particularly going through the winter with all the prep work that the teams have to do behind the scenes to get ready for the new season. And then when we head to Buriram for our season opener in late February, early March in 2026, when he's not sort of completely, shall we say, steering the good Tech 3 ship as he has done for so many years. What a stalwart, what a servant he has been to the Grand Prix paddock for so many years, and long may that continue. And I know I say that on behalf of everybody in the paddock and so many fans all around the world as well. It hasn't been an easy trip back to Barcelona, has it, so far, for our reigning world champion. Much happier recent memories of this circuit for Martin. Of course, he was crowned world champion here last November, but he was 21st fastest this morning with a 140.350. He has picked up a couple of tens already in this afternoon session. Still finds himself second adrift of the best pace, down in 18th spot as we pick up Jorge now, going through his beloved turn 5. Shoulder down there, of course. We've already had the iconic Martinator shot going through that low gear turn 5 left-hander.
It's a curious one, this, for the Aprilia today, because they've got a pretty good recent record as we see exactly what Matt was talking about, and exactly why Jorge Martinez made that corner so iconic by dragging his elbow and his shoulder across the tarmac. And don't take our word for it, even Hollywood A-lister Will Smith is blown away by the skills of the reigning MotoGP world champion.
Get that guy a chin slider. I bet the staff here at the Circuit de Barcelona-Catalunya that paint the curves red and white, going, that looks lovely. And then Jorge Martin turns on, they're probably going, you just ruined all of our good work, Jorge. Yeah, that everybody in Aprilia trusts us in our commentary box. We've got a big smile on our face as well, because we always look forward to Martin going through that turn 5.
Yeah, what they won't be smiling at is the current session standings, though, because as I say, it's a curious one with Aprilia today. They are 16th, 18th, 19th, 20th and 21st. The fastest of them is Raul Fernandez. He's 7 thousandths of a second away from being a full second off the pace. Now, how much of that we should really be worried about, I guess it's up to you, because in the last couple of Grand Prix, Marco Bezzecchi has gone through qualifying 1 and qualified on the front row of the grid before converting them into podium finishes. So maybe a weak Friday isn't necessarily a particular problem from Aprilia's point of view, and I'm sure they don't want to be this far down the order on purpose. Jorge Martin currently down in 18th place as we ride on board with Pedro Acosta, who currently sits in 2nd place. Currently, as Brad Binder moves up, we've got a Ducati leading from a pair of KTMs and a pair of Hondas, 4th and 5th.
Yeah, this is looking really good, isn't it, for KTM? When I asked Pedro Acosta in the pre-event press conference yesterday what he thought about KTM's prospects of being at the forefront here in Barcelona, let's not forget he was here the last time they won a dry Grand Prix in the hands of Miguel Oliveira. That's 4 years ago now, in 2021. He made a good point, did Acosta, saying that the KTM RC16 has always been a bike that's worked well in low grip conditions. We've seen, haven't we, how strong the bike is in the wet as well, which gives an indication now that they don't really mind it when it's a bit greasy, a bit slippery underneath them. At the moment, Acosta 2nd, Brad Binder 3rd, and Bastianini 6th. So I think any concerns that they might have had about the low grip conditions here this weekend, well, they don't seem to be right now affecting the RC16. They're finding grip where others can't.
I mean, Maverick Vinales has got a lap time in him that could put him inside the current top 10. He did a 139.3 this morning. That would put him up inside the top 6 as it stands at the moment. Binder is on a brand new soft rear tyre, though, as you can see, bottom of your screen, albeit a slightly worn medium front, so that could attribute some of Brad Binder's recent improvement.
Just lighting up that rear tyre as well as he was on the gas coming through turn 10, then through the left hand of 11. Now this is where Binder's got to get his house in order in 2025. He really has struggled on a time attack. It's never really been Binder's forte, has it, in MotoGP? He has only ever had 3 front row starts in the Premier class. This is his 106 start, so not exactly a prolific top qualifier is Binder. Of course, now it's almost imperative, if you've got any hope of fighting for the podium, you have to really be directly into that Q2, or certainly out of Q1, which on so many occasions so far this year Binder has found tough. So you just wonder whether you might just be thinking, okay, let's get in an early banker, at least find or get some feeling maybe early on for the performance on a new soft rear tyre, because yeah, we know that Binder, if he can get away with that lead group, he's going to be in the fight.
And KTM is continuing to prove an absolute rocket in a straight line, although curiously Johan Zarco along with Brad Binder has set the top speed of this session so far, 354 kilometers an hour. That is upwards of 220 miles an hour, and there Bastianini will be cranking it up towards that sort of speed now as he drops downhill towards turn 1, right up behind his fellow KTM colleague Pedro Acosta. Bastianini currently in 6th place, and I have to say the idea of a debrief at Tech 3 next season with Gunther Steiner, Enea Bastianini and Maverick Vinales would love to be a fly on the wall in those particular meeting of personalities.
Here is Mir then 16th. This Honda's not exactly shy through the speed traps as well. 352.9 kilometres from Mir. Could have been aided by some slipstream down that long start-finish straight. But at the moment then, Vinales finds himself down in 24th place. He's done just 9 laps so far in this session. The only rider that has completed less laps at the moment is Aldeguer, who's done 8 for Gresini Racing. You just wonder whether there's perhaps a little bit of energy conservation at play here as far as Vinales is concerned. This morning, Maverick, when he was a real strong 4th, completed 14 laps. So he's done 9 so far this afternoon, 23 laps, which is just 1 shy of full race distance. We saw him have to really limit his laps at the Red Bull Ring in Austria before, unfortunately, he had to withdraw from proceedings. Yeah, we wonder whether Vinales may be just saving a bit of energy.
Not just for the weekend as a whole, but for one last big push later on this afternoon to get himself into the top 10, because he's clearly demonstrated so far today he's got the kind of potential and performance to do so. We're down in 24th place at the moment as we once again take a look at the future team boss and the current team manager Nico Goyon, just to see where his role figures in the new structure of Tech 3 for next season, although as we've already heard that there is certainly no intention to change any personnel down at that team.
Was that Nico just saying, yeah, this is where we'll put the swear jar for 20,
it'll be already full,
26, yeah. Yeah, it'll be lighter in the wallet, won't it, if they do put one of those in the garage for Gunther Steiner. So on board with Marco Bezzecchi, we haven't seen really much of Bez, have we, so far on day 1 here at the Circuit de Barcelona-Catalunya. 4 podiums in the last 5 for the Italian, 3 on the spin for the first time in his MotoGP career. He really has hit some strong form of late. Once he was able to sort of get a handle on what he needed to get the best out of a soft tyre on an RSGP, which then of course has resulted in better qualifying. We have seen Bezzecchi at the front of a lot of our recent MotoGP action, haven't we? He really has sort of been one of Marc Marquez's biggest rivals over the last 3-4 Grand Prix. So let's go down to Jack and get an update on Maverick Vinales.
Yeah, I have to say, he looks pretty good, in far better condition than when I last saw him in the box in Austria. That he doesn't need any ice on the shoulder, he's not unzipping the levers, they're just making a few tweaks to that number 12 machine, and he's going to be back out in a minute. He was saying yesterday that his biggest issue is he's not under braking, not under changing direction, he's just actually getting tucked in on the bike. Now, with this being one of the longest start-finish straights on the entirety of the calendar, it's not the greatest circuit to return to, but so far so good for Maverick. He looks like he's not under any real pain whatsoever.
Yeah, great news. Thanks so very much for that. Jack did speak to Nico Goyon at the back of the press conference room while he was a very keen onlooker as the Tech 3 Gunther Steiner news was announced, and just asked where Maverick was at in terms of his recovery. Of course, he did have the initial operation immediately after that Q2 crash in the Sachs ring, when he realised that the shoulder injury was a lot more severe than he first imagined. Tech 3 say that they don't believe at this stage that there's going to be any further requirement for surgery post-season for Vinales, but they are going to be very closely monitoring that situation. Of course, Maverick and his team will take the best course of action they feel will be necessary to get him in a tip-top and his best physical shape for the start of 2026, which will be a massive year for what 99% of the grid, really, with so many contracts up for grabs for 2027.
Of course, what we won't want to do at this stage or at any stage in the remainder of the season is have another crash, because we generally find, just as Marc Marquez from 5 or 6 years ago, when you do have a dislocated shoulder or anything along those lines, a repeat of that injury is so easy to occur if you do have something similar, another similar sort of crash. So Maverick Vinales, potentially, we don't know, riding within himself in this session at this stage. Fermin Aldeguer, who is the only rider, as Matt mentioned, to have done as little mileage as him so far, is now starting to rack up the laps, and he's up into 12.
Well, so far this has been a fantastic Friday in Catalunya for KTM. Pedro Acosta led the way this morning in FP1. Currently second at the moment, ahead of Brad Binder with an AM Bastianini 6. A new boss at Red Bull KTM Tech 3 incoming as well. So there's lots of positives to talk about right now with KTM boss Pit Byron. Like I say, Jack will do so right now.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's touch on the here and now, Pit. As Bertie was just saying, what a start to this Catalan Grand Prix it's been so far. Ahead of the weekend, Pedro was speaking about potentially some concerns with the low grip circuit here, but seems to be handling them more than capably at the moment.
Yeah, I mean, first of all, if there is low grip, it's low grip for everybody. So, but we came here with these expectations, but yeah, it's nice to see that from the beginning we could put in a decent performance, and we just want to build the weekend. Like Friday, it's early, but of course we know Friday's afternoon section is always the key to have a great weekend. So, but I'm just happy to see that the boys are happy. Like after the practice, you have the smile on the faces, and looks like we can keep that direction. That the bike just feels better now on every single track, a lot of grip or low grip. So we just try to keep that momentum and keep the riders happy, and then they will perform, as we know.
Obviously some massive news in the lunchtime break, the announcements that Hervé will be selling a team to Gunther Steiner and a consortium, obviously new partners for you with the Tech 3 squad. So just firstly, give us your thoughts on that news now that it's official.
Yeah, I mean, first of all, we had a great relation, great work with Tech 3 and Hervé, and we just have to thank him for all the years of great, loyal working together. But now, yeah, times are changing, and Günther is very welcome because he's a racing pro, and I think he sees the really big picture of how to make sport big, and I think that's exactly what we also need in this paddock. So for us, it's definitely great that this big move, that a team got sold, and that some new fantasies on the table. That, I mean, Dorna did a great job, and the sport is just getting bigger, and the fan base is getting bigger, and people love MotoGP. I mean, you know, I work also many years already in the sport, but in the meantime you come to the bakery and people ask you how about the race, and I saw you on the weekend. So sport is anyway getting bigger and bigger, and having a guy like Günther with us and his team around him, I think I know he has a very professional plan, and he will make us stronger in the future, and he will be a super strong base for our future riders coming to KTM.
It won't be long before you sat around the negotiating table with him, trying to piece together a deal for 2027 and beyond. How confident are you will be able to strike up a deal quite quickly with Günther to continue the relationship that you've had with Tech 3 for many years now?
Well, I mean, at the moment, they were quite long to make the deal happen. The deal happened, so that was the first step, and before there was nothing to talk about how to go into the future. But there is no secret. Dorna knows, and Günther know, and then also Hervé confirmed. We feel this is kind of our very important part of the factory team. So it's not a satellite team, it's part of our factory project, and we want to continue. And I hope Günther will believe we are the right partner, and I don't have any signs that he will think different. So But that's the job we have to start from today on, since he is really the owner of the team.
Well, Pete, thank you for your time. Started well. Let's hope it can continue like this.
Yes, thank you very much. Let's have a great GP weekend.
Yeah, here. Thanks as always to KTM boss Pit Byra. Thanks to Jack as always. Yeah, the 93 fans. Yeah, give us a thumbs up. They're having a great day, aren't they? On their outing here at one of the best Grand Prix tracks on the calendar. There's a little bit of everything, doesn't it, Barcelona? I think with Mugello, Valentino Rossi always used to say that Barcelona was one of the tracks that he always relished, coming to tackle 4.6 kilometres in length, a 300 or near 360 kilometre start finish rate, which Marco Bezzecchi's tackling right now. Hard-braking zones, some real fast tyre punishing corners when you think of turn 3 and turn 14. That's where the Michelin rubber really gets a workout. Viñales then back out on circuit. He's got a fresh set of tyres underneath him on the KTM RC16. As you can see on the graphic, a new soft front, a new soft rear for Top Gun.
At the moment, this isn't a lap that's going to move him into the top 10. He's the only KTM rider not in the top 6, just to underline what a great day they're having so far. Maverick Viñales perhaps just keeping something in reserve for when he really needs it. Still 23 minutes of this session to go, so still plenty of time to rescue himself from current P24. This could move him potentially up in the sort of bottom end of the top 20, somewhere near Pecco Bagnaia probably, when this lap comes to a close. Here comes the KTM, then out of the final. Got Viñales up into 17th place, 3 places now ahead of Bagnaia, who slips to 20th.
A bad record in the smaller classes around this circuit. Viñales on his first 4 visits in 125s, Moto 3 and Moto 2. He was on the podium in the lot. Was Maverick, some of the circuit that he's had some success at in the past, as the 63 Bagnaia then ventures back out onto circuit. A 140.026, his best work so far this afternoon, which at the moment is not really any obvious magic wand fix from his issues this morning when he was stuck way down the rankings. Was he 23rd? Because at the moment Bagnaia is 20th. As yet, we are still yet to see a 139 from the Italian at any stage on this opening day so far. And we know that Alex, Costa, Mark, they're doing 39s for fun.
Bagnaia is probably going to need a 38, I reckon, by the end of this session, just to have any kind of comfort that he's into the top 10. Feels like another potential punch to the Pecco Bagnaia confidence coming this afternoon, unless he can turn it around dramatically in the remaining 22 minutes. Although, of course, this isn't unheard of for Bagnaia to languish down the order on a Friday afternoon, only to rescue it when it gets into time attack mode. But at the moment, to say that Bagnaia has shown nothing so far today to suggest that he's going to walk comfortably through to Q2.
Bagnaia 20th, Martin 23rd. I don't think any of us at this stage of the weekend were expecting to be contemplating those two so far down the rankings. It could all change, of course. I think most likely will do as we move into the time attacks late on in this session. Viñales looks a little bit frustrated there. He has found a mid-139, which has moved him to the fringes of the top 10. 12th place Viñales moves up to, and you have to say this has been quite an impressive return. Well, more than an impressive return, to be fair to him, for Somkiat Chantra, who's lacking a lot of seat time of late, missing Saxon Ring, Brno, Red Bull Ring and Hungary with that serious knee injury. Well, Chantra has just fired him his best time of the day, a 140.002, which got him to within a second of Alex, and he's now got Bagnaia, Ralph Fernandez and Jorge Martin behind him. 2 of our most recent world champions at the moment stuck behind Chantra. So yeah, an excellent job by the tyre rider.
Yeah, he's near enough matched to Amir on the same Honda, although Amir hasn't shown any efforts on new tyres yet. Yeah, that type of Chantra is the thick end of a second quicker than he went in free practice 1 earlier on today. It's a not insignificant injury that Chantra is returning from. Did quite a bit of ligament damage to his right knee, and anyone who has injured ligaments in their knee will know that it does take an awful long time to not only recover from, but also to be anywhere near 100% once again. So Chantra doing a fine job on his return to action for the first time since we saw him at Assen, of course, when he scored his sole World Championship points in MotoGP.
He is being heavily linked with a Honda seat in World Superbikes in 2026. We are expecting confirmation very, very soon that Diogo Moreira will slot in alongside Zarco in LCR Honda in 2025. So quite what destination 26 is going to be for Chantra. Well, it does look like maybe Honda's World Superbike team could be a possible destination for him. There's been no sort of inclination that he might be stepping back into Moto2. I guess we could always expect some promising signs from Chantra, because this is one of the very few tracks that he is coming to in his rookie season where he has previous experience on the LCR Honda. Of course, he did make his debut here on the RC213V at the post-race test here in November 2024. So a little bit of experience and a little bit of data to call upon for Chantra. He's still going to go out there do the lap time, and that's exactly what he has done at the moment.
So that's been his second home Grand Prix this, also for Songkyak Chantra. He and the band of brothers, I guess they are, from the Honda Team Asia camp over the years and the Age Time Cup, based in Barcelona. Chantra and his very good friend and former teammate, of course, who got it to Agura. Of course, as close as brothers. Agura currently at the moment up in 11th place. And second to the Aprilias now, of course, with Marco Bezzecchi's recent improvement. Bezzecchi 9, top 10 at the moment. Alex Marquez, Ducati, Acosta and Binder, KTM. Marini and Zarco, Honda. Bastianini, KTM. Marc Marquez, Ducati. Miller, Yamaha. Bezzecchi, Aprilia. And Aldeguer, Ducati.
So this feels very much like the calm before the storm, doesn't it, here in Catalunya? As we get this shot of Acosta, who really has started this Grand Prix firing on all cylinders. Fastest this morning, currently in P2 this afternoon. Of course, it's been qualifying of late mistakes at key moments in the Grand Prix weekend, which have really undone some of Acosta's great work of late. At the moment, though, looking in fine fettle, we have to say, isn't he? Just 200ths of a second behind Alex, as we do move into this crucial final 15 minutes or so into the final quarter of this session. 139.922 on Acosta's second run, 7 laps in that second run. A fair few low 140s to boot as well. He's not just got the outright one-lap pace, as he showed this morning with the only 138 we've seen so far on day one here, but it's looking like he's got very, very strong race pace as well.
Yeah, the riders will be trying to explore whether that soft rear tyre is in any way a race option on Sunday. I'm trying to rack my brain. Pedro Acosta started that soft rear tyre here last year, but we never got to see how it would have fared towards the end of the race, because he crashed right here at turn 10 when he was trying to challenge Jorge Martin and, of course, eventual winner Pecco Bagnaia at the front of the race. He's done a bulk of his work in this afternoon session on that soft rear tyre, has Pedro Acosta, which we'd certainly expect to be the primary choice in the Tissot Sprint tomorrow afternoon, which of course will take place over 12 laps at 3 p.m.
Here's the beast. Right, cowboy, as he got on the gas. Coming out of turn 13, turning that RC16 into a bit of a fucking bronco was Sanea. Over the line he goes. This has been a promising Friday as well, isn't it, as far as the Italian is concerned. Quickly putting behind him what was a bit of a horror show, to say the least, in Hungary, as he referenced this morning. First lap falls in both the sprint and the Grand Prix. Certainly not what Anea was expecting at the Balaton Park circuit, where he'd been right at the sharp end, really, throughout. He's pushing, he really is attacking. Another moment there for Anea as he powered the RC16 out of turn 3. Good first sector, though. Wheel spin as well through turn 4, then left into turn 5, where he completely destroyed a KTM there at the November test last year.
Yeah, if there's one sector you'd expect that KTM to be especially strong in, it is that first sector, of course, which is essentially the start-finish straight. You do go, of course, through turns 1 and 2 before you click up the first sector timing beam, but he's also picked up time in sector 2 as well, as he now hangs it out through turn number 9, challenging corner, that taken at around 130 kilometers an hour, hard braking now for turn 10, braking on the angle as you round the long turn 10. The future boss of the Tech 3 squad might feel he's got the Midas touch if Enea Bastianini can take this to top spot.
Yeah, Enea's manager's going to be starting those 2027 contract talks with Gunther Steiner right now, isn't he? Because this is some lap that the Beast is producing. That was a little bit more tied in his last excursion through turn 30. Look at that shot on the inside camera. Knee and elbow scraping the inside curve there through the third gear, turn 14. And Enea Bastianini then does find the quickest time of day one here in Barcelona, 1:38.972. Second rider, second KTM of the day into the 1:38s. That's just inside Acosta's 1:38.979 this morning.
It's already coming under some quite serious threat though from you-know-who. Marc Marquez is out there on a soft rear tyre now, and he's set now the fastest first sector of this session so far. Because once again, it was not like the comfiest ride for Enea Bastianini, but it's certainly quick.
He's ringing the neck of that KTM right now, isn't he, here in Catalunya? Is Bastianini. But it might all be immaterial very, very quickly, because Marc Marquez is coming to play. He powers the factory Ducati through turn 9. Look at that right height device drop down to pick up the maximum acceleration on this squirt down now into turn 10. A leg drops through the left-hander. These two left-handers now where Marc Marquez will be so strong. Well, we thought a 1:38.9 was pretty flash. We've seen two so far from Acosta and Bastianini. But this is about to see goalpost moved and some. Johan Zarco has done a real strong lap, to be fair to him, on the LTR Honda. But we'll follow Marc then out of the final corner. Just stays off the green as well. And of course, it's a 1:38.444. And he goes briefly half a second clear, because just at the top of your picture there, coming out of the final corner, was Zarco. What a lap that was by Zarco, 1:38.511. Zarco's second fastest this morning, and he's now second quickest afternoon. Top job.
Yeah, I think many chins would have hit the floor when Marc Marquez said a 38.4, but Zarco near enough matched it. Here comes Jack Miller on the Yamaha for Pramac, of course, which will be staying on for next season. He now goes up into fourth place on a 39.0, and I think what we're seeing already underlines that if you want to be in qualifying 2 in 13 minutes time, you're probably going to need a 1:38.
Miller on the Pramac Yamaha got prime track position there. He was tucked in lovely behind Aldeguer's Ducati, punching a big hole in the air for the Yamaha. Now that would have certainly helped Miller at the start of this start-finish straight. Costa then now sets his best time of day one, 1:38.852 from the Spaniard. Still work to do. He's just, well, only 3.5 tenths behind Zarco, 4 tenths behind Marc, as now we pick up Alex. He's just now on the fat part of the tyre, perhaps a handful of throttle, then out of the final corner. 73 goes up into P3. Pace is certainly hotting up here in Catalunya.
I think Marc Marquez has definitely got still some time on the table in that final sector, because we've seen Zarco and now Alex Marquez go quicker than Marc through there. So his 600ths of a second advantage could well be a bit nearer a quarter of a second had he got that final sector right. Brad Binder has set the fastest first sector, matched by Pedro Acosta. Once again, the KTM is positively rapid in the first part of the lap.
At the moment, we've got Yamaha 6th, 7th and 8th. Miller, Oliveira and Rins. Fair play to Oliveira and Rins, that they've just set their best times of the opening day here as well. Miller still using Aldeguer as an ideal reference ahead of him. We'll track those two now out of the final corner. Just ahead of those two is the former pole starter here in Barcelona, Aleix Espargaro, who goes up into P8.
Yeah, so we've now got Martin 10 from the factory of Aprilia. He's just recently set a lap time in the low 39s. That's not going to get him through though, with the likes of Binder, Marini and Aldeguer right behind him. Binder could be about to go right to the very top here. Both of the factory KTMs going very, very quickly. Here comes Acosta then, who's going to get himself well into the 38. So 38.6 now puts him into third place. But we'll keep a close eye out for the South African. Here comes Brad Binder.
Binder then through the final corner. He's up by a whisker. Can he get himself inside that top 3? He'll just be happy to be inside the top 10 only at the end of this session. 4th place then goes Binder with a 138.638. The 2 factory Hondas on the move as well. And me at 7th, Marini 8th. There's Alex. And now Nab's top spot away from Mark, a 138.349. Dare we believe, dare we dream that there's possibly a 137 on the table?
And again, it was all in sector 4 for Alex Marquez versus Marc Marquez. Oliveira improves again. He's in 8th place then. He is once again the top Yamaha, as he was for a lot of this morning, in fairness. Here comes Jorge Martin looking to show Aprilia's cards in this session, but it's only good enough for 12th.
Martin sporting that beautiful home race helmet that's been designed by fans. The competition in the milestone producer of the MotoGP video game set a challenge, design Jorge Martin's home race helmet, and that was the winning entry. I've got to say, out on circuit, it just looks as good as it was when Jorge presented it in the pre-event press conference here yesterday. At the moment, what is going on right now with number 63, Bagnaia? He's just put in a 139.368, which compared to Alex and Mark is nowhere. He's a second behind the 73 and 93. Finally, he does dip into the 139s. It's just nowhere near good enough at the moment for Pecco.
Well, once again, it's the curious conundrum of the Ducati GP25. Marc Marquez is second, Pecco Bagnaia is 20th, and Fabio Di Giannantonio is 22nd, although he hasn't improved yet on a soft rear tyre. Quartararo has now to go into 9th place, so we now have Yamaha's 8th and 9th.
Zarco, for me, has been the star of this afternoon session, star of day one in many respects. On the LCR Honda, second this morning, 3rd fastest this afternoon. Surely that 138.511. Maybe good enough already to see Zarco through into Q2. This is a replay of Martin going through turn 3. This will be late on in Sunday's 24, that MotoGP race, but you really are going to have to show some finesse with that right hand. You're going to have the traction control dialed in perfectly, because that's where you really do start to smoke and abuse that right hand side of the rear tyre. Turn 3 and turn 14, as mentioned, are the 2 corners around this 4.6 kilometre venue where you really do punish that right hand side of the tyre. Here's Aldeguer. At the moment then, still looking to nudge his nose into the top 10. The rookie up to 11th with a 138.929.
Fabio Quartararo could be about to move himself much closer towards the Marquez brothers, who are in the low to mid 138. At the moment, it's estimating that he won't move up more than a couple of places with this final sector to come, which we know Alex Marquez was super strong in. Here comes the number 20 with the pink 20 in the changed crash helmet design for this weekend. It's not quite as good a final sector as Alex Marquez, but it does move Quartararo up to the top 4. We now have French riders 3rd and 4th.
How's he doing that? How is Quartararo doing this on a Yamaha? We know that this track, notoriously low grip, ice rink conditions generally here in Barcelona. We know how much the Yamaha suffers when the grip levels are low, so that 38.602 once again, just more power to the brilliance of Quartararo. Di Giannantonio needs a big lap, finds a big lap, up 12 places from 22nd to 10th. He certainly will not be able to relax though with that 138.915. At the moment, good enough for the top 10, but there's plenty of peril coming his way potentially. He's only 3 thousandths clear of Marini, who in turns 100th ahead of Aldeguer. See, well, that battle behind Di Giannantonio from Marini down to Rins in 19th. Nothing between them barely at all.
Super close, and we've got Di Giannantonio, Marini, Aldeguer, Morbidelli, Bastianini and Martin all on 138.9s. I said you need to be in the 38s to get himself into the top 10. Well, a 38.9 is not going to be good enough. You're going to have to get yourself well into the 38s. At the moment, we've got Ducati's 1st and 2nd, Honda 3rd, Yamaha 4th, KTM's 5th and 6th, Aprilia 7th, Honda 8th, Yamaha 9th, Ducati 10th.
Lots and lots of questions right now about Bagnaia, and you have to say not many answers are coming out of his side of the factory Ducati garage. Does he need a big 6 minutes or so here in Barcelona? Bagnaia well adrift. 139.368 sees the double winner here in 2024, 21st as he starts this final run. Only Raul Fernandez, who's having a pretty torrid Friday so far, the Trackhouse, the returning Sonkiat Chantra and a brilliant test rider Lorenzo Savadori find themselves behind Bagnaia.
So Alex Marquez has been given the message, he's been followed by the number 93. Well, there's a double meaning to that one. Not only is Marc Marquez in that queue, riders right behind him, but in terms of the standings, he is literally being followed by Marc Marquez at the moment. You've got the canny Spaniards of Alex Rins and Aleix Espargaro have been able to drop themselves into the gap between the Marquez brothers, which Marc Marquez is now trying to remedy. He's up the inside in the background there on Aleix Espargaro. The Marquez brothers in Marquez territory here in Catalonia are looking to underline their class, which they've demonstrated for all of 2025.
He needs to steady the ship though, does Alex. Just one podium in the last 5. He's done it in Assen, Brno, and most recently in Balaton. You always got the sense, this kind of circuit, Revel Ring in Hungary, the last couple of Grand Prix, stop-start, tight, twisty, not really playing to the strengths of Alex's sort of aggressive, fast and flowing riding style. This really does play into his hands, doesn't it, the Barcelona circuit. And we know when he made his GP24 debut here in November, well, Alex creamed the field. He looked brilliant, and from the get-go, on day one on the GP24, he said, "This is the motorcycle that I've been waiting for. This is the bike where I can finally show my full potential in MotoGP." Has not disappointed, has he? Second in the World Championship.
Well, Marco Bezzecchi is looking to take a rather different route to the front row of the grid as he has the last couple of Grand Prix, but he's gone through Q1, and that certainly puts him in a good position to avoid Q1 this time. Up into third place now on a 138.475. Miller just behind him goes 9th, so we now have a trio of Yamahas up inside the top 10.
Look at this from the beast as well. Doesn't seem that long ago, does it, since we saw the number 23 at the top of the timesheets, but Anaya has been pushed back down to 15th now. There's been no improvement on his early 138.972. Acosta, though, is flying on another KTM. KTMs are having a field day here, aren't they, on day one in Catalunya. We're going to follow Bastianini now. Down the hill he goes, flings it onto the right-hand side through the Catalunya corner here in Catalunya. Bastianini, surely this is going to be a top 3, that 4th place for Anaya, a 138.490. Iagura just behind the beast. The rookie's just set the 7th best time in this session, as Acosta does indeed go top. Binder, though, behind him. The two factory KTM teammates now first and second. Now this would be a shock. Brad Binder leading the way with a 138.141. What a Friday for KTM.
Well, their slogan is ready to race. They look it right now, don't they? Binder from Acosta, they've got a couple of tenths in their pocket over the Marquez brothers, and Marc Marquez not improving on this current lap. KTM's first, second and 6th, and of course Maverick Vinales is in the pits at the moment, of course conserving energy, so what a Friday they're having. Marc Marquez does improve to a 38.3, but he's still 2 tenths adrift.
I had a coffee last night in the KTM garage with a couple of Binder's mechanics. They were saying how much they need to find pace on a soft tyre. I'm going to go back for another coffee tonight and find out what they've done since yesterday, because this has been superb by Binder. Mark then has just set his best time of the session, a 138.365. He's 4th fastest at the moment. Well, there are kind of 2 surprises in this session. Binder fastest, and Aguirre still holding on to 10th.
And Pecco Bagnaia just set his best lap time of the day, but fingers in your ears, Bagnaia fans, it was a 39.1. He's a second off the pace, and those yellow flags, well, I was about to say those yellow flags are going to leave him stranded outside the top 10. He's not looking likely to get himself in at any rate.
Looks like somebody's down at turn 2. That's a tricky left-hander it is, Johan Zarco. Now, could that be costly as far as Zarco's hopes of Q2, or direct place in Q2?
Binder's
are going to go.
Here.
Look at this by Binder. Brad Binder has stepped up to the plate here, hasn't he, on Friday in Catalunya. No wonder the boss Pim Bymer gives a big nod of approval. Pim ain't going to stop that. You ain't stopping that, Brad. Nice try, but that one was not going to get stopped.
So Pecco Bagnaia, who's touring, he's now waiting Well, there's yellow flags out again in Sector 1. They've just been cleared. They're now back out again. Is it for the same bike, or has someone else now entered one of the gravel traps? It's in fact Bastianini who's gone down. Looks like he's also down at turn 2, and that's Pecco Bagnaglia's goose well and truly cooked.
Yeah, that turn 2 bike's on top of the air fence there, isn't it, on the exit of that second corner. You can see his airbags were activated as he hit the deck. It's not the first time that Aeneas caused a bit of KTM chaos here. Oh, look at that one. That is another big repair job overnight for the Beast crew. Yeah, he's livid, really frustrated with himself. In the middle of your picture is one of Aeneas' mechanics with the grey goatee, Steve Blackburn.
Cancel your evening plans.
He's just looked up at the monitor and gone, yeah, I'll call you after midnight tonight, darling.
Yeah, unfortunately, I'm going to be staying at Montmello for the next 5 or 6 hours to repair that. Are there any changes coming then in the top 10? The only one who might change it is Aldeguer, who's improving in the third sector. Morbidelli, as you can see, on a personal best, but he's 8th anyway. Aldeguer looking to try and rescue himself up the order from 17th, but there's some big names here, aren't there, outside the top 10. Quartararo 11th, Mir 13th on the Honda that's got pace to be higher up than that. Aldeguer only goes 14th, Di Gian Antonio 17th, Martin 18th, and Pecco Bagnaia's miserable Friday at Montmello well and truly complete, 21st, which is third last.
Martin just cannot get anything at the moment, can he, out of a soft tyre on that Aprilia. There's nothing wrong whatsoever with his race pace, but when he has to go into time attack mode, it's just that lack of confidence, that lack of trust, which is really holding him back at the moment. Martin then 18th. He'll be concerned about that massive gap that there is in terms of the time attack pace. There's Danny Pedrosa from Polispargo. What a great shot that is, of course. Two top talents who do so much great work behind the scenes as KTM's star-studded test team. Well, all that hard work those two have been putting in of late. They were here for a private test recently, and well, that has paid off. Binder fastest on Friday here. No wonder they're so happy on the South African side of the factory KTM box. A 138.141 seals the deal for Binder. He's hotly pursued home by his teammate Pedro Acosta. Enea Bastianini, despite his rather expensive late crash at turn 2, does make it 3 KTMs then inside the top 10. Some other performances of note. Johan Zarco 8th. He was in the top 3 for so much of that session, although he was a late faller. Ayagura excelling. He picked his place behind Binder, didn't he? When Binder fired in his best lap of the session, he had Agura for company, and a Japanese rider goes through directly into Q2. Our 3 most recent MotoGP World Champions, in fact, make that 4, and they're all in Q2. Quartararo 11th, Mir 13th, Martin 18th, Bagnaia 21st. That is a heavyweight Q1, isn't it? Tomorrow morning here in Catalunya. But it has been the dream start through Chapter 15 in 2025 as far as Red Bull, KTM, factory racing are concerned. Binder flying at fastest, Acosta second and super strong.
Super strong. And boy, KTM looking strong on this opening Friday in Barcelona. They're fast in a straight line, but there's certainly much more to this KTM upturn than that. Certainly, whatever kind of corner, whatever kind of situation you put that KTM in around this Barcelona circuit, it is super quick. 3 of them inside the top 6, and you'd say they're only 3 fully fit riders comfortably through.
Yeah, Maverick Vinales, the outlier, and we'll excuse him, of course, because he's nowhere near his best physical shape right now. The Spaniard, he did a 139.308, left him down in 23rd place. Well, that was some conclusion, wasn't it, to that hour-long practice session here in Barcelona. Fabio Quartararo there, expressing his clear frustration. Quartararo is livid. He is absolutely raging. He's just, anybody that will get within sort of 5 metres right now. Quattro's getting an absolute earful, aren't they? What a day, though. Let's take nothing away from Red Bull KTM Factory Racing, because they have been the stars of the show here on Friday in Barcelona. Binder fastest. Of course, we're saying, let's get the thoughts of the boss, Aki Ai, with Jack.
Yeah, huge day for KTM as Brad Binder comes into the box here. Aki, it's been impressive from Pedro since the summer break, really, but how big of a day is this for Brad? After all of the struggles to end the day fastest, that's got to be massive for him.
Of course, first of all, with all the riders today, really good day. Maverick is back, which is really important as well, and I think it's right moment for him to start now to make this recovery, let's say, finish the recovery on the bike. But of course, all the rest. NAI is really fast at the moment, and both here, Brad and Pedro. So I would say that somehow I see it natural step now, that we are really coming step by step by step by. This is something what I really like. I don't like this that you are immediately there and improving so quick. So it's better to understand what you are doing, and I feel at least that we are understanding now what we do.
I know you well, Aki. I know you'll be telling the team tonight it's Friday. Keep feet on the ground. Let's hope it continues.
For sure. I will say it with a low voice. It's only Friday.
Thank you, Aki.
Thanks a lot.
Great stuff as always from Aki Ai. It is only Friday, still a lot of hard work to be done, but they are first and second on the timing screens. Timing screens right now that Pecco Bagnaia probably can't believe his eyes, can't believe what he's looking at as he tries to process the first time he's having back-to-back Q1s since the tail end of 2023 in Mandalika and Phillip Island. We thought Friday was brutal for Bagnaia in Hungary a couple of weeks ago. Well, today just feels like it's a lot worse. He was the winner in both Grand Prix here in Barcelona last year. Untouchable on those two occasions, but at the moment just looking, as we've mentioned so often in recent weeks, a shadow of the rider that won 2 world titles.
Well, there's an old phrase that you can't truly bounce back until you reach the bottom, but every time we think that Pecco Bagnaia has hit rock bottom, it gets worse. We thought surely it cannot get any worse than Balaton Park a couple of weeks ago. It just got worse.
Yeah, and those 3 GP25s, well, there's only one that was able to consistently perform at the highest level, and it's ridden by that rider on screens right now. Mark, 4th fastest as he digests what has happened here on the opening day. Just under a quarter of a second he was away from Brad Binder. Many of you will say start of the show was Ayagura, who has got himself directly into Q2. First time that's happened since that brilliant debut he made at the Chang'an International Circuit in Buram on debut. Agura through into Q2 with a 138.599. And once again, you feel this, it's all part of the process, it's all part of shortening that pretty big learning curve as far as Martin's concerned, but it's clear where his main problems lie right now. It's just getting any pace out of a new soft rear tyre. Martin in Q1, 18.
And fortunately, with the strength of qualifying ones these days, there's absolutely no certainty that he's going to be able to make his way through all of that. A rather exasperated Johann Zarco gets glad that he got out of the turn 2 gravel track before Enea Bastianini arrived, but doesn't look like a rider particularly pleased with his afternoon's work, even though he is through to Q2 in 8th.
Do you know what? We've got a couple of very angry Frenchmen right now down in pit lane, because Fabio Quartararo's in a foul mood, and it looks like so too is Johann Zarco, who tips off the side of his LCR Honda. He had a couple of hefty old impacts, didn't he, in Balaton a couple of weeks ago, clattered out of the sprint on lap 1 by Enea Bastianini, and then a real high-speed get-off in the Grand Prix at turn 8. So a few too many trips into the gravel of late for Johann Zarco, who I do believe is actually our most prolific visitor to the gravel traps so far in 2025. Shows how hard he's trying to push that LCR Honda. Marc Marquez in front of his home crowd. They've certainly enjoyed their day one here today, with home heroes Mark and Alex 3rd and 4th on the timesheets. Pedro Acosta 2nd. Well, that trio eclipsed by the brilliance of Brad Binder. 138.141 sees Binder go into Qualifying and sprint Saturday here in Catalunya as the fastest rider. That's really the shot of day one, isn't it? As the two factory KTMs lead the way.
Brad Binder topping a session in MotoGP for the first time since he topped practice in Japan last year. Pedro Acosta completing a factory KTM 1-2, and Marquez brother 3-4. Alex ahead of Marco Bezzecchi, the first of two Aprilias through to the top 10 in fifth, ahead of Bastianini despite leaving his KTM on the air fence at turn 2. He was sixth ahead of Morbidelli, Zarco, Marini through to Q2 once again, and Ayagura, standout performance from him to take 10th ahead of the livid Fabio Quartararo. World champions 11th for Quartararo, 13th for Mir, 18th for Martin, and completing a fourth MotoGP World Champion in Q1 tomorrow, Pecco Bagnaia, 21st.
A real sorry Friday, isn't it, as far as Pecco Bagnaia is concerned. The 138 he needs to get anywhere near that top 10 never materialised, and never really looked like materialising at any stage in that hour-long session. A long second one completed there by Brad Binder, and a fair few 39s and low 140s to keep the competition on notice. And when he went on to a soft rear tyre late on for his fourth run, a 138.141 Binder, the best of the lot here in Barcelona.
Pedro Acosta second quickest, and underlining what a fine Friday it has been for KTM. Acosta certainly looked on the ball first thing this morning, backing it up here this afternoon, just a tenth of a second adrift of his teammate today.
Fastest in the test here last November, Alex Marquez looking pretty rapid on the Gresini Ducati. His best work, a 138.280. Alex second the championship, cruising into Q2.
And Marc Marquez might be fourth, but still looks in supreme form. Look at the consistency on run 2, just as it disappeared out of shot. All of those low 140s. A 38.365, only good enough. I say only for fourth, but he's certainly going to be a podium threat tomorrow.
How are we looking sector time-wise? Well, KTM 1-2 in that first sector. Acosta this time around from Binder, with Bez not too far away in third.
And Binder strong 2 in the second sector, with Johan Zarco putting the Honda into the top 3.
Marc Marquez rapid in the third sector, ahead of Binder, and Jorge Martin, well, there's nothing wrong with his pace in that third, to be the world champion, third fastest.
And fastest of all in the fourth sector was Johan Zarco on the LCR Honda, which might pick his move up a little bit.
Well, it's taken quite some time in 2025, hasn't it? But KTM finally are coming to the party. What a day it has been here on the opening day of action in MotoGP at the Circuit de Barcelona-Catalunya. Pedro Acosta led the way in FP1 this morning, and out of nowhere, a KTM dominating the opening exchanges here today in Catalonia as Brad Binder leads the way in practice.